Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Productivity Webinar Series. This is part one of a series you don't want to miss. I am Alice, your host, and today with me we have Dario and Santis and Vivek Kakkar, co-founders of Tweelin, who's going to show you how to reduce the number of meetings on your calendar by 40%. Huge, right? With that, you can accomplish more during the day and hopefully be able to set yourself up for that coveted promotion you've been waiting for. Who wouldn't want to know the trade secrets to that? So I'll pass it over to Dario right now.
Yeah, thank you so much, Alice. Hello, everyone. It is an immense privilege for me to be here with you and share my experience. Today, I'm going to share with you, dear hybrid workers like me, the recipe to avoid up to 40% of your calendar events, work less, and likely get a promotion through a simple two-step framework. Sounds unreal? Please stick around until the end and see if you still think so. Now, the first thing I want to mention is that if you ever felt frustrated by a huge amount of meetings and calendar tools that seem ineffective, it is not your fault. There is a lot of information out there that depict smarter, more effective calendar management as the cure for all the hybrid work problems. Many times, that misleading information overload keeps you from success. It is okay. If you have ever felt helpless in the past and concerned for being destined to a poor work-life balance, well, today I want to put those fears to rest. You can do this. You just need the right mindset and framework to get there. Many large and medium corporations want you to believe that the solution to almost every collaboration problem involves your calendar. And I'm here to tell you that they are wrong. They have their own reasons for wanting you to think that, but it's not true. If you've ever felt frustrated like a slave of your own calendar, you're probably right by doing so. These large collaboration giants built a fortune on calendars, and any new technology threatening calendars is a big risk for them to lose large chunks of business. So they want you to use more and more calendars and make it easier and faster to schedule and reschedule. The difference with us today is that we actually care about your success, because in the end, we are hybrid workers exactly like you. And we truly want you and anyone else to stop working overtime due to unnecessary meetings. We want you and us to be more productive, nurture personal relationships, and ultimately live the life of our dreams. So that's what we are here for. I know you probably have a dream to improve your work-life harmony and spending more time with your family and friends, ideally without affecting your professional performance. And I want to show you how to make that happen during this webinar. Now, my goal for this presentation is to help all of you by sharing my story. This is my personal story, and giving you a framework that, if followed rigorously, will allow you to cut up to 40% of your scheduled meetings. And all of that without affecting your performance. At the same time, adopting this framework will change the perception of that your coworkers have of you. So you will increase the chances to get a promotion. And in the next 20 minutes, my goal is to get you to believe that making your day more fluid is the key to unlock a better work-life balance. And I'm going to teach you my proprietary framework that will make it very simple for you to achieve that result. Now, you may be thinking, why should I listen to you today? You know, right, Alice?
Right, no, exactly. I was going to ask you the blunt question of why would people on this call listen to you?
Yeah, okay. I spent the last 15 years building, and bringing to market virtual collaboration products. And I spent the first 13 years out of 15 working very long hours at the office. Only recently, I had an amazing chance to radically change my lifestyle, become much more productive, and even get a promotion. And I have been able to help other people obtain similar results. But it wasn't always that way. In fact, during the first year of pandemic, I was just as frustrated as you, possibly even more. And now the story, right? It was the beginning of 2020, and when the pandemic hit, I had just changed role at a large corporation I was working for. I actually still work there. And suddenly I found myself stuck at home. Most of you don't know that I have a sort of relational superpower. I am an enormous human being. I'm 6'10" tall. Trust me, extreme height comes with a lot of disadvantages. However, one big advantage is that people remember you everywhere you go. If I go to a restaurant twice, the second time the owner remembers me and thinks this guy's a loyal customer and gives me a special treatment. In a business setting, the same exact advantage applies and makes you recognized by many people in your organization, often without you moving a finger, just see you and recognize you. That is why I always prefer being at the office versus working from home. And now I was stuck at home without my superpower and with a whole new team to get to know. And that was a very challenging time for me. So quickly, my calendar filled up with a ton of one-to-one meetings. And I thought this was just a temporary phenomenon until the relationship with the new coworkers were established. Instead, these one-to-one meetings kept growing like mushrooms until they became too many. And I could not deliver what I was supposed to do. At that point, I started working overtime, sometimes evenings and weekends. And while this is not a huge deal for a short period of time, it is absolutely not sustainable in the medium long term. The situation for me was becoming really frustrating. I was spending less and less time with family and friends. I had given up all my weekend hobbies, no more fishing, no more biking. I was no longer exercising. My body was taking a big toll. I needed to find a way to improve my situation as soon as possible because burnout was really around the corner. At that point, as a technology enthusiast, as a tech worker, I started looking at all the available apps that could help me save time and reduce the workday. So first, I tried one of those famous schedulers that allow you to send a link to a person who books time through it. And despite a clear advantage of saving time for the organizer, in the end, I obtained the following results that sparked more questions than answer. First, the change of length of my workday was so marginal that I couldn't quantify it. Why? I couldn't get my head around it. And second, the interaction style was not always applicable. I was transferring the burden of scheduling to the invitees. And I was totally uncomfortable with using that scheduler to invite important people because I'm made them do the work. It was kind of poisoning the perceived image of myself to the eyes of people I needed to talk to. And this was unacceptable for me. And second, I tried to save time by using those smart scheduler. These solutions are based on artificial intelligence. They make it easier to schedule and reschedule events, as well as sometimes they book automatic, focus time on your calendar. But unfortunately, also in this case, I obtained similar results. My workday did not shrink. I didn't know why. And many times, this automated scheduling and rescheduling ended up eating into time slots that were free, and I was thinking about using them for different activities, and that generating a whole source of frustration. The emerging schedule did not count for a lot of variables that were in my head. So the AI wasn't smart enough. My struggle went on for about a year until, to make the situation more complicated, I had my third daughter, and my life became 10 times more complex to handle. Plus, my first two daughters grew up seeing me only during weekends because I was always working. And it would have been absolutely crazy not bonding with my third daughter while both staying at home. At that point, I really needed more time during my day. The frustration was so high that my new top priority became solving my overtime problem. So I focused on figuring out the reasons behind all those technology failures. And I quickly came to realize that my worst enemy was the calendar itself. It's a silent villain we are so used to that many of us believe we can't live without. Think about it. Your workday is really divided into 8 chunks of an hour each, or 16 chunks of 30 minutes. The more you fill in those slots with scheduled meetings, the less time you have to work on what really matters, and the more you get pushed towards working overtime. Plus, my heavily booked calendar. So with my heavily booked calendar, if I had 3 hours of focus during the day, they would be surely scattered, like an hour late in the morning, an hour after lunch, a couple of 30-minute slots before the end of the day. And those scattered slots would not allow me to get things done anyway, for 2 reasons. The first is when you only have 20 minutes, 30 minutes slot, you start the focusing process. By the time you reach a productive state, you are already thinking about getting ready for the next meeting. And second, during the day, there were always new emerging priority, new urgent decisions to be made that weren't scheduled. And the only time to address them was during those scattered free slots in between scheduled meetings. So from that perspective, calendaring solutions that make it easier to schedule and reschedule made the situation even worse, because they automatically ate into the available slots I could have used for higher priority items or to work on my tasks during the day and reduce overtime. But I was determined to win the war against my messy calendar. And honestly, I couldn't do otherwise. The accelerated change our society is undergoing would have made this negative effects permanent for me. Leaving the situation as is would have meant pushing myself and my family through a long-term hell, and they didn't deserve that. Then it was one of those hopeless days when, during a video call with my father, a retired psychiatrist, he saw me quite stressed and asked me why. And I answer, look, I'm constantly in back-to-back meetings without being able to take a break. Sometimes I can't even go to the bathroom. And he replied, are all those meetings important? Why don't you just do less of them? You know, as a rebel child, I would have never imagined to find an inspiration so close to me. My father's statement was so simple, at the same time, extremely powerful. Many of those meetings were indeed not important. They were scheduled in the past, and now they were conflicting with other emerging priorities for the day, thus generating stress. Plus, they were definitely avoidable. For example, a sales rep needed to urgently get a hold of me to know product roadmap details to help with the customer renewal. She tries to call me unsuccessfully because I'm in a meeting. She sends a message via chat, but that message gets stacked with all the other messages I still have to process. So she ends up scheduling a 30 minutes one-to-one conversation and constrains my day and gives me one more push to work overtime. If I could talk to her before she schedules, then I'd save one event in my calendar, get her an answer faster, so speeding up her deal, and avoid the joint effort to scheduling and possibly rescheduling if needed in case of conflicts. So reducing the number of busy slots in my calendar would have given me more control over the activities I carry out during the day and a higher resolution to deal with those activities. What I mean is, I did not need to schedule 30 minutes to support the deal, but maybe 12 minutes of unscheduled conversation at the appropriate time would have done the trick. And the trick is room in my calendar to have more proactive impromptu conversations. And how do you do that? How do you achieve that? And after months of trial and error, I developed my own proven framework that will keep your calendar cleaner and will help you achieve unimaginable results. And I'm here to proudly share it with you. Step one, how do you make sure people don't bother you with scheduled meetings? Simple. Don't let them find any availability on your calendar. So what I do every morning, I make sure all the empty slots in my calendar for today and tomorrow are occupied by an event called block or focus. I book focus time completely. In other words, I don't let anyone who can access my calendar schedule any one-to-one meeting for the next 2 days. I know you're thinking, doesn't it also prevent other meetings from being scheduled? And I'll tell you, not necessarily. Meetings with multiple parties, example, program reviews, appear on your calendar anyway, independently from your available slots. And the same applies for urgent meetings, very important urgent meetings. I know you're thinking, aren't you also a bad guy by preventing those people from scheduling in the first place? Yes, unless you implement step 2 of the framework, which is all about proactivity. Let's get back to the previous example. The sales rep calls you, you don't answer. She looks at your calendar and finds out that you are completely booked. Since the matter is usually urgent for her, she texts you. It's an instant message or an email. And that is to figure out when you can talk or when you can accommodate an earlier time than the earliest empty slot in your calendar. which I remind you is 3 business days in the future because you blocked the first 2. At that point, you surprise her. When you're free and the other person also looks free, example, online presence shows available, you proactively reach out via instant messaging, suggesting to talk right away. If she just texts you and she's likely still contemplating the message she just sent you, then call her directly. This way, instead of saying, sorry, I'm all booked, and appear as an unavailable person, you come across as someone mindful and available who is going the extra mile despite the busy calendar to accommodate the sales rep's business needs. And why does this work? Well, it's a win-win. It's one less meeting in your calendar, one less one-to-one, one more step towards freedom of working on what really matters for you. Second, the sales rep who wanted to talk to you got an answer faster than the one-to-one scheduling scenario at everyone's earliest convenience. Third, you could accomplish more in less time. The pace of your day was less dependent on the limited amount of slots in your calendar. And the higher resolution of your day allowed you to allocate the right amount of time to the unscheduled activities, avoiding a huge waste of time scheduling, rescheduling meetings and follow-ups. And fourth, you appeared as an approachable team player, which leads to better peer reviews and in turn, a higher likelihood to be promoted, especially in a large organization where peer reviews are really what determines your likelihood to get bumped up. So what effects did this strategy have on my quality of life? While other people were drowning in meetings, and over time, I could emerge with a better work-life balance than many and an unexpected promotion. Today, I'm able to finish all the daily tasks that matter within 10 hours, down from 13, and I feel so much more productive. With those extra 3 hours, I'm now exercising 4 to 5 times a week. And I even went back to fishing from time to time, at the end of the day with Buddy. And so for me, this worked out really well. But you need something that, we'll talk about right now. I'm not the only one who can claim great benefits from adopting this meeting avoidance framework. Today, with me, there's also Vivek, who is a friend and co-worker, and he will share with us his story.
Dario, that's amazing. Thanks for sharing that journey and very insightful experience about decluttering and outcomes. I'm not an inventor like you. You came up with step 1 and step 2 meetings framework, but I'm a writer. And I will confess today that every morning I write a journal. And what do I write? I write outcomes. The outcomes I want to achieve for that day or for every day. And I'm a big believer of outcomes. It's the big rocks in our life every day. And then those are the ones which matter. And in your example, there are some urgent rocks like the sales rep example and so on, which are also needed to be finished. But we need to finish our outcomes and also be able to make our day highly productive. So my experience has been, especially with global teams, is as I focus on the outcomes and I'm able to reach out to individuals proactively for those outcomes, that I find that I'm able to avoid urgent big meetings, which are big only in one parameter, the attendance. They waste time and they don't get the productivity achieved in the time period we all wanted. So yeah, I have a different use case, so to speak, but I have come to the same conclusion that outcome-based focus is the right focus, Dario. That's my experience.
Yeah, and it looks at, from your perspective, Vivek, productivity is the key aspect that needs to be cultivated to make,
Absolutely.
this meeting avoidance work. You gotta be proactive and reach out, and people will appreciate that. And
Absolutely.
especially if you're a manager, they will definitely value as a manager someone who cares and wants to proactively remove blockers for the team and make sure everything runs smooth.
Exactly.
Which ultimately means you're a better manager.
Yeah.
So let me get back to the results I have achieved. Cleaning up my calendar by 40%, working 3 hours less, and getting a promotion are just the tip of the iceberg. There are a couple of deeper effects that I think must be mentioned. The first is what else I could do with the time I've been saving, about 3 hours a day. I could spend more time with my $3 and strengthen my relationship with them. And I have a happier wife, and I could work out more, I could sleep more. And, second, all those advantages allowed me to become a better person. A dad who's there for his family, a collaborative coworker, a faster producer, and the sense of accomplishment made me perform better at work and getting recognition for it. And this really concludes the story. And I will, invite all of you currently listening to us to not to miss the next webinars. This is the first of a 3-series webinar. In the next one, we will drill down into the framework details. This was, today we just gave you the high-level view, but how do we operationalize and handle the various scenarios and intents within this framework? And how to make sure not to upset people who work with you, but rather please them? What are more tactical recommendations? We'll see, a more technical framework, sub-framework. And then the last webinar of the series is about reducing the friction and maximizing your performance and stand out even with less effort. You might have noticed that the framework works well when someone is trying to get a hold of you. In the last webinar, instead, we explore how to maximize productivity when the other way around is true, meaning when you are the one who's trying to get connected with an unreachable person. So we'll make sure to cover also that arrow, not only others towards you, but also you towards others. How can you really have a breakthrough in that direction? And please follow us. We will post new content. We are content oriented. We have new blogs that we promote every once in a while. We also have a TikTok channel I started posting videos to. And I really want to thank you all for listening to us, and I'll give it back to Alice to see if there's any questions or comments.
Let's see. I know we don't have too much time left, but Dario, could you, with this framework you talk about, can you summarize step 1 and step 2 again for us?
Yeah, absolutely. Step 1, if you want this kind of buy time, okay, is make sure people don't don't see scheduling on your calendar as the solution to get information, to extract information from you. Okay, just make sure to block your calendar so that they try not to do that, but they rather reach out to you and say, hey, I really need an urgent piece of information for you. Why don't you, but you're booked. And you say, well, you know what, since it's important, I'm giving it to you right now. And that's a proactive part. Now you reach out to that person and you surprise that person by giving them what they need much earlier than their expectations. That would have been scheduling something in the afternoon or the following day. That leads you to a better, peer review, better recognition, and more seen as a more trustworthy team player that cares.
Very helpful. We have a question for Vivek. Now, you talk about focusing on outcomes proactively. What would be the step one in doing that? What should someone do? What's their step one process to how to think proactively around the outcomes?
Yeah, so I also call it, from the product world, I call it jobs to be done. So as a person, as a stakeholder, as a leader, what am I trying to achieve? Not in next 3 months, but today, every day. And at the end of the day, there has to be outcomes which I have marked as achieved or done. So whether it is resolving a conflict between team members, or defining strategy, or resolving a conflict with a vendor, or a schedule, project schedule, all of that, or even things smaller than that, right? There could be some outcomes which are really important for you today. And once you itemize them, you actually put them on your radar and you actually go and complete them, right? If you don't write them, you don't put them on your radar, then you may or may not go after them as aggressively as you want. And that's what I mean. So basically, spend those 5 minutes in the morning when, it's quiet, you just woke up, write those, and then next day morning, go visit your previous day outcomes to see whether you covered all of them. Maybe not. Maybe 2 out of 10 didn't get done. Carry them forward if they are still relevant. So that's how I do it.
It's very helpful. Very prescriptive approaches, something we could all take and hopefully apply in our jobs. So, all right, we are at time. So everyone, thank you for attending. We'll see you on Thursday. Please don't forget to register, and we'll also be live streaming them as well. Thank you, Vivek. Thank you, Dario.
Amazing. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
We love you.
Everyone.